Hello readers, this is Justin's 52 Books, where I discuss my selections for the 52 Book Club's 2022 Reading Challenge. The 52 Book Club puts out a reading challenge every year, and it's up to the readers to decide what books they're going to fill in for the various prompts that the 52 Book Club puts out. This is week 12, and I'm talking about prompt 36, a book recommended by my favorite author. The book is Twilight of Democracy, The Seductive Lure of Authoritarianism by Applebaum, and it was written in 2021. I got kind of lucky with this prompt in that my favorite author, whose book I discussed last week, Neal Stephenson, put out a new book, just last year, and was doing the press for that. And in November 2021, he did an article with The Week, the online news magazine, and Neal Stephenson in that article recommended Twilight of Democracy as one of his 6 recommendations on books on information and misinformation. Stephenson states in that article that the book acts as a great playbook for misinformation campaigns that have led to Eastern European authoritarian regimes. While that is correct, the book is a little bit more than that. It's almost memoirish in the fact that Applebaum and her husband have been somewhat insiders in what she refers to as center-right politics going back a long time. Thus, she has seen the political discourse change from post-Cold War era to now, and she discusses the change that she has seen her friends and former colleagues that they have gone through as they embraced what she uses a term coined by Timothy Snyder, a historian. They have embraced medium-sized lies. I desperately do not want to turn my YouTube discussion about the books I'm reading into a political discourse. There's plenty of that on YouTube, and I don't need to continue that. But I do need to address the topic of this book, and I need to approach it from a point of view, and I'm going to do it from my point of view. To that end, I have to talk about how frustrating it is coming from what I would consider a center-left family, both my family and my parents' family and my in-laws and my grandparents, and going back, I would consider us center-left. It's frustrating to hear people like Applebaum or like David Brooks. He weighed in a couple months ago in an article for the Atlantic, I think, where he basically said, I don't recognize conservatism anymore. Or even P.J. O'Rourke died a couple weeks ago, and the eulogies for him, it's all this hand-wringing by these former Reaganites and how they have no place in Trump's America, and they don't understand how things got like this. And it's very frustrating to hear. Where were you guys when I was being called un-American for not supporting the invasion of Iraq? And hey, I participated in that invasion. I participated in shooting missiles from the Red Sea into Iraq from a nuclear submarine, and I'm still called un-American for my opinion on that. Where were you guys when Limbaugh was talking about the women's movement and how he supported it when he was walking behind it? Where were you guys when people were shrieking, drill here, drill now, which we're probably about a month away from doing that again now that Vladimir Putin's done his moronic display of power? Seriously, it's hard to have center-right folks cringe at the reality of what their party has claimed ownership of for so long. And then you have passages where Applebaum gives me pause and makes me temper my frustrations. She rebukes certain figures, Pat Buchanan, Laura Ingraham. She warns that, quote, whatever equilibrium your nation reaches, there is always someone at home or abroad who has reasons to upset it, unquote. She brings up Isaiah Berlin quotes where he discusses total human fulfillment and calls it out as not being real and possible. And Applebaum goes on with things like efficiency and liberty and justice. She lists off equality, the demands of the individual, and the demands of the group, and she notes that they're not compatible in every case. And I agree with that. And I hear that, and I wonder, and I think about the end of the Pledge of Allegiance, where we talk about liberty and justice for all. And I wonder if I would be called a leftist if I suggested that we forgo the pledges of nationalistic identities. And that's kind of what kicks me in the balls about the whole book. It's dressed up as an introspective look at the far right, but Applebaum can't help but fall into the same whataboutisms that she accuses others of. I'll give you an example. Here's page 152, quote, By 2016, some of the arguments of the old Marxist left, their hatred of ordinary bourgeois politics and their longing for revolutionary change, met and mingled with the Christian right's despair about the future of American democracy. Together, they produced the restorative, nostalgic campaign rhetoric of Donald Trump. What the hell is that? That the Marxists had anything to do with Donald Trump? That there are even Marxists in this country? I think she means to say populists, and I don't mean to put words in her mouth. I am not qualified to. She's a great writer and a great analyst. However, the idea that Marxists are responsible for the Trump campaign is problematic. And here is where someone watching this brings up more whataboutisms, and they'll bring up cancel culture, as if there's some sort of equivalence with all this and holding people accountable for the shitty things that they've done, or having a problem with Berkeley disinviting Ben Shapiro to speak at Berkeley. Please. All in all, I think I'm glad to have read Twilight of Democracy, just for the fact that I understand certain aspects of what's going on in Eastern Europe, which was why it was suggested. Neal Stephenson was right in discussing the tactics of disinformation and weaponized nostalgia are discussed in the book. And I truly believe that the center, both the left and the right, are the key to stability and ultimately progress for a country or community or whatever. But I think I am found all too often to be witness to the folly of the left, and only on rare occasions are the mistakes of the right made or are to be discussed, with the exception of possibly the Nazis and the KKK. This book is a small step in the direction that I feel the conversation needs to go to uphold and embrace the center. But I think the conversation needs to go much further than Anne Applebaum has done in this book. And that's my thoughts on that. And I generally won't get much more political in these discussions, but it's a political book. Thanks for watching my thoughts on Twilight of Democracy by Anne Applebaum. This has been week 12 of Justin's 52 books, and I was talking about Prompt 36, a book recommended by my favorite author. For more information on the 52 Book Club's reading challenges and reading prompts, you can check them out at their website, the52bookclub.com. You can also check them out on Facebook and Goodreads. You can also check me out on Goodreads and Storygraph. I hope to see you for the next 2 weeks when I discuss both Prompt 26 and Prompt 27 for two different books. Those are a book with an author's note and a book with a map, and both of them will have those prompts applied to them. Until then, happy reading. And this, Berlin wrote, is unacceptable to many people. Quote, to admit that the fulfillment of some of our ideals may in principle make the fulfillment of others impossible is to say that the notion of total human fulfillment is a formal contradiction, a metaphysical chimera, unquote. Nevertheless, unity is a chimera that some will always pursue. Anne Applebaum.